Novelist, playwright, poet, and essayist, James Baldwin emerged as the spokesman of the civil rights movement.
James Baldwin is considered such a great author because he was so skilled at eloquently describing what it was like to be black in America.
Born on August 2nd, 1924, in Harlem, New York, James Arthur Baldwin was a Pentecostal preacher at age 14, left the church 3 years later, and was already an accomplished writer. When disgusted by prejudice against African Americans, he left the United States and moved to Paris in 1948.
James Baldwin earned a writing fellowship, and he used that money to buy a ticket and leave immediately for Paris.
He left in part because he felt he couldn't write freely or honestly in America. And perhaps more particularly, he couldn't write freely or honestly from the ghetto.
In Europe, Baldwin completed Go Tell It on the Mountain, one of Modern Library's 100 best English-language novels of the 20th century.
Go Tell It on the Mountain was an important novel, in part because there were not many novels being widely read about Black urban life from the perspective of Black people.
The semi-autobiographical tale really discussed in a profound way issues having to do with family relationships, organized religion, human sexuality. It was certainly one of the finest books published in America.
In 1958, he wrote Giovanni's Room, a controversial novel that featured only white characters and explicit homoerotic content.
Giovanni's Room is one of the first novels in American literature to tackle the issue of homosexuality. When he published that novel, that was a daring thing to do. That was a taboo topic.
Baldwin's book, The Fire Next Time, published in 1963, discussed the uneasy relationship between Christianity and the Black Muslim movement within the civil rights movement, and landed him on the cover of Time magazine.
In 1963, he may well have been the most powerful and most compelling and most widely recognized literary voice in terms of his essays, in terms of his relatively popular fiction. He was the voice that was calling America's attention to the prejudice and the racism that persisted in society.
It was the year of Dr. King's historic speech, the March on Washington. Everybody read The Fire Next Time. It was an angry outcry at the racism going on in the United States and the burgeoning civil rights movement.
With the assassination of major civil rights leaders like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, Baldwin returned to Europe, where he lived most of his adult life, and continued to reflect the racial upheaval of America through his work.
In addition to novels and essays, James Baldwin was a playwright. He wrote criticism. He even published some film criticism. He was what you might call a creative journalist. He looked into the Atlanta child murders late in his career and wrote a series of powerful essays about those.
As a resident of France, Baldwin was given that country's highest honor, Commander of the Legion of Honor. He died from stomach cancer on November 30th, 1987, in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, France, and was buried in Harlem, New York.
His writings had an enormous impact on American society. He reflected the times and remains a powerful source for an understanding of a vital period of our national history, the civil rights movement, the most important moral crusade of the late 20th century.
Greetings and welcome. This is Perspectives with Kevin and Evelyn.
Evelyn. I'm Kevin, by the way, guys. I'm Kevin.
Good to see you, Kevin.
How you doing, Evelyn?
Wonderful. As you can see, our topic is what? More on James Baldwin.
More on James Baldwin. And we were touching on the subject, the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro. Now,
Yes.
A lot of people differ on opinion in regard to that. But I would say, and of course this is from, a Black male growing up in America perspective, that is indeed the case. The American government and the country as a whole made its fortune and its wealth based upon the free labor of the not just the black man, but the black woman and even black child. So
Yes.
for it not to be at the expense of the American Negro would very much surprise me. Um, Even to this day, uh, the American Negro is the only sect of people that don't immediately get rights and laws in their favor. Take, for instance, during this pandemic, we've had a law, an Asian hate law passed. And that's just because of what the Asians were suffering during this particular pandemic. Now this pandemic has
Yes.
lasted. Yeah. Now this pandemic has lasted maybe what, a year, maybe a year and a half.
Going on a year and a half now. Yes.
Right. So now, parallel that with what the black person, man, woman, or child, has been going through for the last 400 to 500 years, and we have yet
Well,
to get a law in our favor.
Think about this. If you really want to get an angry discussion going, start to talk about reparations. Start to talk about reparations, and the argument begins. And when Black people talk about being paid reparations, you would think that we were talking about somebody sending us a welfare check,
right,
on a regular basis,
or just us sitting back, not doing anything, and just being taken care of.
Well, the dialogue always goes to that was so long ago, and it really wasn't that long ago. And
get over
and
it.
so exactly, but no other group is approached in that manner. We have paid reparations for the internment of the Japanese in this country. We've paid reparations, and other countries have paid reparations to, like the Japanese women who were made to be concubines for the soldiers during the war. They've been paid reparations. People, Native Americans in this country have been given back some of the lands that were stolen from them, and separate laws have been made. Everything is okay for other people. But when a Black person starts to talk about being compensated for hundreds of years of free labor that have made the current billionaires laid the foundation for their wealth in many cases. You have Chase Bank, Morgan Bank, all of them made incredible amounts of money on slave labor and the categorizing of human beings as property. And so when you start to look at the benefit that has come out of the enslavement for everyone except the people who did the work, there should be no question.
That's true. But and now with that, it's compounded by the systematic eradication that seems to be going on as well. Given the fact that we helped build this country, we're not given any accolades at all. We're still subjugated. We're still discriminated against. We're still hunted to a degree.
2021.
In 2021. But any other nationality that comes to America is set up for success.
Given business loans, housing, food,
property.
And a great credit rating, which allows them to move to a different level. And that was one of the reasons that Baldwin left this country and moved to France, because of the inequities that just stymied his ability to focus in on his writing, because it was so horrific and so traumatic. And so he felt he needed the freedom of space that would allow him some free flow, where he did not always have to be so conscious of being a Black man.
And given that free flow, he had to leave because he didn't want his life in jeopardy because of that free flow. Because
absolutely, because he knew they would have killed him on sight.
Here in America, right here in America, and at that time, they were wiping people out for what they believed and spoke. So he felt,
that is occurring right now today, and I believe on a very organized manner that Black people are under attack, and that there is a very covert war against our communities. If you look at some of the crimes that are being committed across the country, it's not just a haphazard effort. There are so many incidents of people being attacked at every level. I mean, you can't even walk into a store without there being some kind of feeling of what kind of issue am I going to encounter today? Can I just get in and get out without being or coming under some type of either verbal or physical attack, just simply because I'm there?
Right. And it's amazing to me that you have some Caucasians and some others of different nationalities who can't seem to be objective when it comes to our experience. It's almost like they walk around with blinders on or blindfolds even, because they don't see the struggle. They don't see that we are being systematically eradicated, or better yet, an attempt to systematically eradicate us. It's also I guess you could say a ghost thing of where it's almost like we're making this stuff up, and you see these things happen on the news every day, but with our situation, we're making it up. We're taking it too personally.
We're stuck in the past, and they try to pretend that the issues that we talk about are ancient history, when in fact they're very relevant to today, and the history of it shows a consistent behavior that has carried itself right into 2021 and will probably go even further. So, when we're talking about it, the whole issue of voting rights in this country right now is because African Americans took it upon themselves to vote at a level never expected. Right. And it scared people that were on the other side of that. And so they have systematically rolled back the clock and put laws into place. And this is a battle that we've been fighting ever since, we were given the vote, is to have equal access and be able to freely cast our ballot at the same level that other groups of people do. And so here we're looking at states that have put, where you can be fined for handing somebody a bottle of water while they're standing in line to vote. What kind of insanity is that?
Standing in extreme heats and you can be fined for a bottle of water. Yes.
That's to discourage. That is to discourage you, first of all, from voting, to make it a 9-to-5 thing, Monday through Friday, when it's impossible for most people, not just Black people, to get to the polls, to limit drop-off points, to make it as difficult as possible for you to do a mail-in ballot. All of those things are focused on the difficulties of brown people. And the census has shown that across the country, America is browning up. And I think that is a very frightening fact for white people. Just to be honest, I think white people are having a lot of difficulty in dealing with the fact that we are becoming a multicultural country, not just little pockets. And that is outpacing their ability to maintain the white establishment. And so, whatever they can do while they have the power to put laws in place to try to stymie any ability to have a level of power, such as being able to vote easily and elect officials who are more open-minded, who reflect what the country looks like, is going to be fought. They're going to do everything possible. And so when James Baldwin was saying, fire next time, that's what he was talking about.
Right. And given the overwhelmingly biased opinions of our counterparts.
Yes.
One would be pressed to say that we will ever get the accolades for helping to build this country. If they didn't need us back then, we probably would have been wiped out to the extreme that the natives were. And it's and the only reason I think is because the natives they reacted as we should have reacted. But I think if we had and I could be a little bit askew as far as my opinion on this, but I'm going to give it anyway. I think when they came to get us, we were more of a docile people and not more of a hostile, antagonistic people. And I think those guns and gunpowder scared us.
Well,
so
it should have, because true, that wasn't our nature.
But and because the natives here were more of the case to where they were truly liberty or death. A lot of them chose death, and they fought to the end until they couldn't fight anymore, or possibly until there wasn't enough of them to fight anymore.
Well, please keep in mind that there were many battles fought on the continent, and everybody didn't go, quietly, and many people were killed in the process. I am a great fan of Shaka Zulu because he was a great war strategist, and he fought. The difficulty is that Africa is a continent, not a country. Right. And there are so many different languages, tribes, cultures. They were able to separate people, and people couldn't understand each other's languages. And so there was a very contrived action to the enslavement of Africans. Because Africa is a continent. And so they brought people together that had never been together before, that had not worked together, did not speak each other's language. And they came bearing gifts that, initially, we're tribal people, we're welcoming people. That is a part of our basic nature. And in many cases, they were agricultural. They weren't, going around the world trying to kill and conquer. So the concept is not a tribal African concept. But for those who were warriors, they fought. Right. But the whole deal was to bring people over who had agricultural skills, because they were trying to grow rice, cotton, and tobacco. And that was something that we had expertise in.
Right.
And that was the nature.
And even to this day, America is unable and unwilling to highlight the accomplishments and uh, 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 the givings. I'm having a brain fart, but the givings, the things that we have contributed, the contributions. That's
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
that African Americans have had in this country. There are a lot of things that work better because of something an African man or woman did, made, or suggested. Uh,
Surely. Well,
and
because we did the work, we knew what was needed, like an
right,
iron and an ironing board, something that
and then on
simple.
board. Yeah, even things as complex as heart monitors and or something that we take for granted, like the traffic light.
How
Think
about heart valves that are used
heart
to,
valves. Yes,
that those kinds of things. But those are things that we don't know about because we're not telling our stories.
right.
And
Because
that's what perspectives is all about,
it's
allowing
all
a
about.
platform for us to tell our stories.
Hmm. And to make people aware of of accomplishments, because there are a myriad of accomplishments in the Black community. And again, as I said, these accomplishments have helped push America forward. Um, uh, but and that in itself is using us at an expense. So given the very fact that we've contributed things that have pushed America forward, but have not been given the proper accolades, says itself, it makes the point that America has grown and been at the expense of us, because even the the minor things that we've done aren't getting accolades, and they find it a difficulty in giving us the smallest amount of uh,
Of
attaboys or
credit for anything.
yeah,
And so some people would say, well, why do you have to have credit for it? Well, you do, so why not?
why
Because why not? And the cell phone, helping get people to the moon, all kinds of major things that help our children understand that science is not difficult or impossible. Math is something that you can master because
hmm
others like that look like you have done it previously. Those are the things that give our accomplishments that necessary value because it helps our children see what we're capable of. Just the way they want examples for their children, our children need the same thing. And so when we're cut out of the equation, it gives the impression that we've never done anything but sit on our front porch and wait for the mailman.
right.
And that is so just not accurate. So if we don't point out, if we don't tell the story, if we don't make it visible
Hmm.
and help our adults to also know the story, because I can't teach what I don't know. So I
That's true.
can't tell my children about things that I don't know. And so this next clip we have of James Baldwin is really short, but it speaks exactly to what we're talking about as it relates to helping us understand who we are.
Hmm.
So if we can roll that clip right now, that would be great.
If we
It's
Fantastic.
were
really
white,
short.
if we were Irish, if we were Jewish, if we were Poles, if we had, in fact, in your mind, a frame of reference, our heroes would be your heroes too. Nat Turner would be a hero for you instead of a threat. Malcolm X might still be alive. And everyone is very proud of brave little Israel, a state against which I have nothing. I don't want to be misinterpreted. I'm not an anti-Semite. But, when the Israelis pick up guns, or the Poles, or the Irish, or any white man in the world says, give me liberty or give me death, the entire white world applauds. when a black man says exactly the same thing, word for word, he is judged a criminal and treated like one, and everything possible is done to make an example of this bad nigger so there won't be any more like him.
That is an excerpt from an interview, but it's a part of a documentary that is called I'm Not Your Negro. And if you haven't seen it, everyone who has not seen it should view it. It is on YouTube, and you should take a look and understand the direction and focus of African Americans in this country, because it really takes a very deep dive into the fact that we can do the same exact identical things that white folks do. And yet we can find ourselves in prison because we protected our house.
Right. You have these young white boys who go and get automatic weapons and go to school or some crowded area and slaughter people and be taken in alive. You have a black man who's standing on a corner simply smoking or possibly selling cigarettes, and he's choked or shot to death. You have a man who, simply because he disagrees with you, you fire into his car with his children sitting in the back seat. That's never happened with white people. That's never happened. They always find a way to de-escalate when it comes to our white counterparts. But with us, they frequently escalate until some of us are dead.
Absolutely. And it's not just adults, they kill children too.
Right.
I remember the 12-year-old that had a water gun and was shot to death by a police officer who said he felt, endangered.
Right.
Really?
But again,
a 12-year-old?
A 12-year-old. But again, with these white males who have real automatic weapons, and they are automatic weapons because they've just finished killing a number of people.
Yes.
Still, no bullets are ever fired. No bullets are ever fired.
You're going to talk them down for hours.
You're going to talk them down.
Spend hours and hours convincing them to put their weapon down after they've killed 50 people.
Right.
But you can walk into a church Bible study and shoot and kill everyone there and get taken to Burger King. That is just the most heinous activity for me.
Right.
That, it makes it very difficult for me to understand the other side when I see the other side being so discriminatory in their actions towards our community. We are those people who always try to understand and justify and put reasonableness. But there are some things that are so unreasonable, there is no way to put logic to it because it's not logical. And I think that part of what has to happen are conversations in our community, and without the cameras, without trying to have a media event where we talk honestly about how to preserve our communities, how to take care of ourselves, and how to help our children know who we are by helping them know our history and its relevance to where we are today. Because that's the piece that's missing. We can't take history and think that it was long ago and I don't need to know about that. It is that history that we have to build upon. But if we don't know it, if we think this is all something new, we have a different perception of it.
Now, and also, at the same time, it's hard for us to build our own communities. One, because of the deep and psychological brainwashing that some of us have. We have an instilled and very healthy fear because I think our first show that we did, Evelyn, was about the Tulsa massacres, was it not?
Yes.
Okay. And given that, then we had a thriving community. I think at least one or two. And it's shown that they don't want to see us prosperous, because when they do, that's when their fear kicks in, and they have to do away with it. Um, and the Tulsa massacre was based simply upon that this black community was thriving separate from you, and you could not handle it. So you had to dismantle it and destroy it completely. And so I think sometimes when we discuss getting our own and having our own, that's in the back of our minds, because we know that they're not looking for us to have that, or they're not going to try to let us keep it. There's going to do some way where they're going to try to come in and usurp what we build, and destroy what happiness we gain from what we
Absolutely.
build.
Absolutely. And I do understand that fear. It's the same thing about getting a COVID vaccine. They've experimented on us and done all kinds of other things that we don't even know the depth and the level. But we have to have reasonableness. And my position is, if you're gonna kill me, then you're gonna kill me trying to do the best that I can do, because you're gonna
Right.
kill me anyway. So,
Right.
let me kill me fighting. Don't kill me just acquiescing.
Right.
Hear
Right.
my
Right. Right.
voice. And so that's the position that I take, that it's out there to be destructive for us anyway. And
Mhm.
so if we decide that we're going to allow fear to stop us, then we won't ever get anything accomplished.
Right. Right. Right.
None of the things that we've invented would be a part of our invention list if fear is what we were led by.
Right. And I think it's a case of that, as a people, we need to be made to understand that, fear or no, they are going to try to come for you, whether you're scared or not. So there's and this is where I would say, this is my most humble opinion, that fear is foolish, simply because whether we're scared or not, they're still going to try to do what they're going to try to do. So why not simply rally together and build? And I don't know when we lost our uh, togetherness as a
You
people.
want me to tell you?
It'd be great.
Integration.
Mm.
Integration was the destructive, because integration was not what we intended for it to be.
Mhm.
Integration was meant to give us equal access and equal opportunity. What it did instead was force us to fit into somebody else's paradigm. It destroyed our communities, and it separated us based on somebody else's definition of who
Right.
we were. And so prior to integration, we had to depend on each other. We had to make sure that our communities were self-contained, and it forced us, in many cases, to be tolerant and to work together. Integration
Mhm.
integration kind of moved us away from that by giving us a false sense of equal access, when
Right.
that's not what it was at all.
Right.
And
Right.
so
That's
we have to take a step back and do what other communities have done. Those other communities, it was easier because they already had access.
that is true.
And so we have to learn how to build our resources. And I know that, as always, our time is running low, but our shows are meant to give people a platform to also
Mhm.
have sources of information where you
Mhm.
can dig deeper and look wider and understand the depth of what is occurring in our communities, and not just look at the surface, look at the after effect, look at the result. You need to get to the root problem.
Right. And also, I think our show helps uh, facilitate a a mode of thinking. because
Yes.
and that mode of thinking, I would say, is find out. Don't just accept what you're given. You know, there's a saying, trust but verify.
No
So
doubt.
don't just take, even with the things that Dr. Evelyn and I say. Go back and fact check them. Don't just take our word for it. Go back and fact check it. All of these
Know for
things,
yourself.
know for yourself. All of these things can be found out. All of these things can be realized. And until we as an entire people realize that we can do better, and we can do better without the help of our Caucasian counterparts, I think we will still be kind of running in quicksand. Um, uh, and until we're also able to dilute the brainwashing that we've had over these eons of years. Until then, I think we're still going to be stuck. We're still going to be stuck in the cycle.
And please know, we're not anti-white, but we are pro-Black. And so in the process of doing that, we have to teach our community. You can find Perspectives on YouTube, Perspectives with Kevin and Dr. Evelyn. We are on Facebook Live, Perspectives. And we want you to join us in the conversation. If you watch us after we've gone live, leave a comment. Give us something to talk about. But try to join us Wednesdays at 1 p.m. We're here to talk about it. And we want to hear what you have to say. This is Perspectives with Kevin and Dr. Evelyn.
Now, just one little quick thing. Now we've been taping consecutively for the last couple to a few weeks because we've had either a technical difficulty or there have been scheduling issues on my part or the doc's part. But our shows, we normally tape every second and fourth Wednesday. So tune in with us, join in, and we would love to commune with you and volley ideas and perspectives with you all day.
Absolutely. We're going to close out with a brief video that talks about History in the Making Coaching Network. It is a coaching business that talks to you about how to be your best you. Because one of the things that we know for sure, Kevin and I, we know that purpose over fear will win every time. And that's our goal, to make sure that you choose purpose over fear every single time, and you will win.
Right.
Hi, I'm Dr. Evelyn, and I just want to tell you a little bit about History in the Making Coaching Network. Have you ever stumbled? Have you ever hesitated? Have you ever made a big mistake that you didn't know how it would affect your life, your family? Have you ever been so sorry for something, but you just didn't know how to correct it or come back from it? So now, even when you're thinking you're your best self, you hesitate, you pause, you procrastinate because you're not quite sure that you're worthy. We've all been there. I know I've fallen right into the ditch, but there was always something inside of me that said, get up. Failure is not an option. We want to give you the tools to eliminate procrastination, to eliminate that spirit of fear, because God didn't give it to you. He gave us a spirit of power. Let us help you find that power and step into your greatness. I'm Dr. Evelyn, and this is History in the Making Coaching Network. We can be found on our website at historyinthemakingcoachingnetwork.org. I look forward to seeing you there. historyinthemakingcoachingnetwork.org. Come along now. I'm waiting. I'm Dr. Evelyn.
As always, friends, we appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you for joining us on Perspectives with Evelyn and Kevin.
Take care, friends.
See you next week.